The early morning sun spilled through the bay window, casting warm stripes across the kitchen table littered with blueprints and coffee-stained notes. Emma's decaf brew wafted through the room, mingling with the faint, bittersweet scent of the tulips I had picked from the garden only days before. Sometimes, just sometimes, I felt like I could breathe easier in this space we had built together, a small, bustling home above the shop we had worked so hard to establish. It was our dream, a life stitched together with shared ambition and love. But today, something felt off. I glanced at Emma as she stood by the counter, scrolling through her phone. She appeared lost in thought, her hair falling messily around her shoulders, hiding her eyes from the soft morning light. It was a stark contrast to the exuberance she usually exuded at this hour, spurring our morning ritual. I watched her sip the steaming mug, unfocused as I pushed back the inkling of doubt. The air around her felt thick, strained like the moment before a storm, where you could sense the heaviness but remained unsure of its cause. The previous week wasn't like this. I had been glued to my drafting table while Emma tackled the social media updates for our expanding business. Everything had been smooth, seamless, until I found that odd receipt buried between my notes. I had dismissed it at first, a cream cheese bagel from a café I'd never heard of, right in the middle of the day, a day when Emma claimed to have had meetings with clients. I forgot the itch in my gut as I waved it away, trusting the love we had nurtured. But the longer I waited, the more those memories piled up like damp laundry waiting to hit the dryer. "Are you planning on seeing the Kellys today?" I broke the silence, attempting to draw her attention. That was Emma's longtime client, and I was hoping to revive the buoyant spark I once recognized in her smile. Emma blinked, a flicker of surprise lighting up her eyes before she masked it with a quick nod. "Yeah, later today." "Something wrong?" I asked, the concern leaking into my voice. Besides the heaviness in the air, her usual warmth was sidestepping my inquiries, leaving a chill I'd never known. "No, everything's fine," she said, and yet her words curled like vapor before they could be inhaled. I swallowed hard, an unsettling certainty curling around my thoughts. The days passed, and my growing suspicion morphed into a looming shadow over our home. Emma's phone notifications buzzed incessantly, and I noticed how she flinched at every ping. She canceled dinner plans with friends more and more, often opting to remain at the shop late when I knew the workload didn't justify it. Best of all, her sweet scent of cinnamon and vanilla was suddenly mingled with something unfamiliar, an underpinning fragrance I couldn't place. Late one evening, as I sat across my chaotic desk, I scrolled through the business account, replaying our income streams and waiting to feel grounded. It felt therapeutic as I meticulously counted the numbers under the glaring fluorescent light, illuminating my focused frown. That night, however, the numbers wobbled. I'd known we were pouring resources into expansion, but a hefty withdrawal stood out like a sore thumb. My heart raced and I froze momentarily, the jarring realization crashing down on me. I glanced at Emma's office door, closed and quiet, and the nagging fear wrestled within me. I thought back to the withdrawal and how she had spoken evasively about the client relationships she'd fostered. Unsure, I shuffled through the paperwork, determined to find the truth, to put the pieces together. The next steps swirled in my mind, fueling my mounting rage. I had held on to the love we built, but as the layers peeled away, realization gripped me tighter. Finally, it happened. A forgotten envelope slipped from the loose papers, tumbling down my chair, revealing its sharp white edges upon hitting the floor. I picked it up, my heart pounding louder than the office clock, ticking away my moments of clarity. It was an invoice, but not just any invoice. It was for services rendered by the same café Emma's receipt bore. A list of items that screamed betrayal. Every line read like a dagger plunging into the heart of my trust. Pairing dessert with an unrecognizable name that stood bold in the center, I could almost hear the echo of laughter from a shared afternoon. I knew I had to act. Grappling with a storm inside me, I set my jaw and took a deep breath, fueling the fire of my resolve. I had built this business, it was mine, and my trust would not be discarded so easily. I wouldn't watch from the sideline as Emma unraveled what we shaped together. I would take it back. I had to. The clock ticked ominously as I paced through the living room, the mold images of our shared life twisting in my mind. Each moment felt like a betrayal, a lie dressed in fond memories. The whirling mix of anger and disbelief gave way to a steely determination that coursed through my veins. I would confront Emma, no more hiding from the truth, no more bending under the deceit. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, flooding the room with hues of crimson and gold, the door creaked open, Emma stepped in, a friendly smile painted onto her face, cradling a bouquet of sunflowers, bright as they were suspect. The tension trapped in my chest burned brighter, ready to explode. "Hey, I thought we could use some cheer," she grinned, but I saw the flicker of anxiety threading through it. "Emma," I started, my voice low but adjusted with an insistent edge. "We need to talk." The cheerfulness faded like the light of day as I laid the invoice on the table. Its starkness disrupted the soft ambience of our domestic haven. The name of the café blinked back at us like an accusation. Her mouth fell open, the colorful flowers hanging limply from her fingers as if they weighed 100 tons. "What's this?" Her voice trembled, feigned innocence or genuine shock. I couldn't tell. "You know what it is, Emma? You think I'd let it go after everything? I found the contract as well. Who is Luke Delaney?" Bleeding the accusation into the air, I watched her expression morph, guilt mixed with defensive anger, a cocktail that ignited the tension. "Luke is a client," she spat. But I didn't back down. I pressed forward, infusing the confrontation with assertiveness. "Sure, but your meetings with him don't match the invoice. I saw the dates, Emma. You're running the business straddling two lives, and the worst part, you actually thought I wouldn't notice." "John, please, it's not what you think." She stepped back as if retreating would somehow shield her from the weight of the truth. But the light fell across our past, and I could see the cracks forming in the foundations of what I had once believed to be unwavering. "What else am I supposed to think? You claimed half this business through deceit. Those clients, they've been flirting with me through you." My voice grew louder with each syllable. "Claimed? That's not how it happened." Emma's voice rose in pitch, her tongue slicing through the air like a venomous serpent. I could see the truth undermined by frantic reasoning and panic. "The community thought we were a team. A team? You betrayed that very essence. You do realize this, the very office where we flourish together? Those are my clients, my connections you've manipulated. And for what? To funnel money into your betrayal." She stared back, her eyes flaming with a mixture of anger and fear. "You can't do this. The business, our lives, think of the fallout." "Think of the fallout? All you've done is gather storms by playing house with someone else, and it's cost me more than money." I slammed a fist onto the table, and the sunflowers teetered dangerously as though they too felt the strain of our conflict. "You've angered the beast, and now it's time to decide what you want, Emma. Will you keep lying or face the consequences?" The silence that hung suspended felt electric. I could see her processing the juxtaposition of maintaining her facade or stripping it away to confront reality. "You're being ridiculous," she retaliated weakly. It was the last flicker of the flame before it was extinguished. "Ridiculous? No. Scrutinizing and reclaiming what's mine? That's commendable." I pulled out my phone, scrolling through lawyer contacts I had prepared, the drive for action surging through my limbs. "I'm freezing our joint accounts tonight." She gasped, devastation etching her features. The composure she once feigned cracked like porcelain. "You'll ruin us. You'll ruin your child." There it was, her last thrust, weaponized against the secret we had kept. Our daughter, Madison, curled up in her room, blissfully unaware of the tumult brewing between us. I needed to decide fast, stay focused on revenge or protect her. My mind churned briefly with images of Madison's laughter, the innocent art she created for us, and the warmth she brought to the coldest nights. As I wavered, I remembered that our daughter deserved the truth, to understand who her mother truly was. "If it comes to that, I will expose everything," I said firmly, feeling the power rolling through me. "You've suffocated our dreams while lining your pockets behind my back. You have no right to dictate my choices anymore." I paused before taking a deep breath, grounding myself, letting the moment resonate. "Tomorrow, I'll start separating our assets. You'll be left with nothing if this continues. Think carefully, Emma. Do you want this to go that far?" The air grew heavier. Her composure wavered once more, and her self-protection crumbled into fear. "I won't let you ruin our family," she murmured quietly, her voice cracking, a plea buried beneath layers of betrayal. "I won't let you ruin mine either." I turned from her, fists clenched at my sides. "Tomorrow it all changes. Be prepared." As I left her standing there, lost in her world of shambles, I felt the first taste of sweet control bloom at the edge of my tempestuous heart. The power to take back my life, our shared dream, felt like victory dipped in righteousness. Each step away from the confrontation stoked another fire that threatened to engulf her. The stakes had officially risen. Revenge was no longer a whisper, it now bellowed through the halls we had built. The moment hung palpable in the air, a cataclysm unfolding, and I knew she would either pay for her deceit, or I would lose everything I'd ever wanted. The sun spilled gold across the conference room table as I faced my legal team, a sense of calm armor wrapping around my uncertainty. The air was tense with anticipation. This was the final showdown over the future of everything I had built: my business, my life, and after last night, my resolve. I had made the decision to move forward, not out of spite alone, but for the sake of reclaiming my own narrative. Each piece of the puzzle I had meticulously gathered now led us to this moment. Vanessa's betrayal, the charts of financial impropriety, and the cutthroat texts that she believed were safely hidden in the digital ether had all converged into a relentless barrage of undeniable proof. As I exchanged glances with my attorney, Jen, her expression held the glint of a seasoned warrior prepared for battle. This wasn't just about paperwork, it was about winning against an adversary who had traded vulnerability for greed. "Today's the day," Jen stated, her voice steady. "We go in with everything, and we don't hold back." I nodded, my resolve hardening. It was surreal to think how I had gone from the man blindsided by betrayal to someone poised to reclaim control with strategy and consideration for every step I took. I'd spent late nights and early mornings fending off emotional fallout, and I had refused to let Vanessa's actions dictate my future. So this time, as we gathered the documents to present in our case, I felt something within me shift. I was no longer that naive husband wondering what he had done wrong to deserve such a betrayal. I was the architect of a new beginning, a man ready to protect not only his interests but also the legacy I wished to leave behind. The courtroom was stark, filled with the atmosphere of impending judgment as I took my place at the front, heads turning to recognize me and the storm that was about to unleash. Vanessa sat across from me, her face a mask of fragile indignation and desperate confidence, as if she believed her charm could still sway the world in her favor. Jen opened the proceedings, outlining the case clearly and concisely. I could see Vanessa's grace unravel as Jen went through the evidence, meticulously collected the hotel receipts, the financial discrepancies, and the damning private communications. Each piece rattled Vanessa's facade a little more, and it was deliciously satisfying to observe the shift in her demeanor, a tightening of confidence giving way to rising panic. As we neared the crux of the matter, it was time for me to speak. Rising to address the judge and jury, I hushed the murmurs and felt the weight of all the nights spent grappling with my grief. My voice was steady as I laid out how Vanessa had siphoned both my trust and resources, conspired to turn my life's work into something that could be driven solely by her ambitions. I spoke not only of the financial implications but of the emotional toll, the countless moments of doubt, deceit, and lying awake staring at the ceiling wondering where it had all gone wrong. "I've poured my heart and soul into every facet of my business, into our marriage," I declared, holding the gaze of the jury. "I believed we were building something together, yet I learned that instead she crafted a plan to dismantle everything we had, leaving me financially devastated and emotionally shattered, all for the promise of a new life with someone else." The room fell silent, the grating tension palpable as I paced before the jury firmly. "Vanessa, I built this brick by brick, and the thought of watching you stroll away with half of it breaks my heart. But while you may have believed my silence meant weakness, this is my strength resurfacing. You thought you could take everything when I trusted you the most." With a final glance at her, I added, "But I won't let that happen. This ends here, and I will stand for justice, not just for myself, but for everyone who has been a victim of betrayal." The final blow came as Jen presented the evidence of Vanessa's attempts to manipulate funds and mislead clients, showcasing the extent of her betrayal. The hush in the courtroom shifted to murmurs of disbelief. When it was time for Vanessa to respond, I leaned back, feeling the high tide of emotions crash over this once perfect image I held of her. She stumbled through her defense, clinging to excuses and arguing that her intentions were never malicious. But the discrepancy in the evidence spoke volumes louder than her words, eroding her already tenuous credibility. In the end, the jury rendered a swift and decisive verdict. Vanessa was found liable for fraud and financially accountable for the damages deemed in violation of our business agreements. It was a crushing realization as the final judgment fell against her, shattering the remnants of the life she once knew. With regret etched deep into my heart, I knew that while she had made her bed in deceit, I also had a responsibility to rebuild mine. As the court adjourned and the gavel clanged, I felt the bitter residue of anger wash away and be replaced with the exhilarating lightness of liberation. I had reclaimed control not only of my business but of my life. I felt empowered to take the steps to start fresh, determined to forge a future built on resilience rather than the ashes of betrayal. Days turned into weeks as the dust settled, and I embraced the rebirth of my business and myself. I expanded the consultancy, hired new talent, and infused creativity back into the operations. I surrounded myself with trusted relationships and fostered an environment where integrity reigned. And I also took time for healing, learning, and growth. I rekindled friendships that had gone stale amidst my tumultuous marriage, reconnecting with the very community that had supported my endeavors. I founded outreach programs to mentor young entrepreneurs, sharing my story to uplift others who may have suffered from similar betrayals and financial injustices. Vanessa, on the other hand, was left to face the fallout of her actions. Clients who once trusted her withdrew, her reputation tarnished beyond repair. With her mismanagement revealed, many distanced themselves from her firm, and I knew that the shadow of a once prominent designer dimmed considerably her choices, haunting her every potential step forward. As the months passed, I stared out of my office window one bright morning, watching the waves crash against the shore. The horizon shimmered, signaling a new beginning both in business and in life. I had wrestled back everything that mattered. Sure, I had scars, reminders of the betrayal that could have easily derailed my ambitions, but they no longer held me captive. Instead, they acted as the fuel for my drive, propelling me toward a future defined not only by success but by the understanding of how to trust again, not just in others but in myself. I had taken back my life, and I would navigate forward knowing that I could rise beyond the darkness of betrayal and come out victorious on the other side.